Code Keepers, it's time for another great episode of Get On Code. And this time we're going to talk about the punks, the pimps, the playboys, the prisoners. Unfortunately, we're not doing the best job that we used to do, the best job that we can do, the best job that we will do with raising our sons. So let's chat about it. And I know you're asking the question, what's this have to do with empowerment? Well, stay tuned. What's this have to do with Black empowerment? Stay tuned. All right, welcome to Get On Code, the Fly Guy Show, which is a series of melanated conversations focused on empowerment, health, wealth, and knowledge of self.
People think in binary choices because they are conditioned to.
And on the wall was a picture of a wolf and a lion. I think the wolf was the Democratic Party, the lion was the Republicans.
But the drug trade and all these illegal stuff that people do, that's still economics. It's just that they couldn't do it in a traditional system.
We're talking about melanated wealth.
So we can build wealth, but we just, for some reason, don't seem to be able to transfer it.
You had a great experience. Fine. That means nothing.
What were you told as a child about education? You had to be how many times better?
Every impression without an expression becomes depression.
Pimps, punks, playboys, prisoners. We raising some punk tail men. Zombie, we had a great conversation earlier this week on the Chicago Code and the crisis in our manhood. This is part two. So if you haven't had Code Keepers, if you haven't had a chance to tap into that conversation, you can find it on the podcast platform. You can also find it on YouTube. The Chicago Code, the crisis in African manhood. So Zombie, man, give us a quick synopsis of that before we get into the punks, pimps, playboys, and prisoners that too many of us are raising.
Well, for those who weren't able to listen to the previous broadcast, the Chicago Code is a forthcoming book on which I'm developing. And the Chicago Code is what I really call a Bushido, particularly for young African males. And it's based on 8 virtues, similar to the virtues that guided the conduct of the samurai class in feudal Japan. And Chicago is really an acronym, and it stands for these things. The first letter, C, character. The second letter, H, honor. The third letter, I, integrity. The fourth letter, C, courage. The fifth letter, A, action-oriented. The sixth letter, G, goal-oriented. The seventh letter is O, order and organization. And then if you follow these virtues, it should lead you to what I call E squared, or ethical excellence. So those are the 8 virtues that make up the Chicago Code that will be our African Bushido for young African males to follow.
Yo, that's dope. There was a code. See, when we talk about Get On Code and a code of conduct, and that our code is empowerment, this is nothing new. Nothing new. They're not saying nothing new. I love your Chicago Code, and I also love the Bushido Code. Righteousness, loyalty, honor, respect, honesty, courage, and consistency. I'm tired too, Queen. Yo, Queen, are you raising your sons with righteousness, loyalty, honor, respect, honesty, courage, and consistency as some of the leading variables, leading guidance, the lampposts, if you will?
Oh, Shay, you already know, brother. That is like in every sense of the word. I can show you pictures on this hard drive connected to this computer of just moments where we're creating an experience. Like childhood is, as the parent, the life giver, the creator, right? It is our job to create an experience for their childhood that will train them into leading a prosperous adulthood. So let's go. Like that's my favorite part of life is motherhood, being a what I think is a phenomenal mother to my sons.
All right. Well, look, we got, queens like the fit goddess who's making sure that our sons have experiences. Fathers like myself who are making sure our sons have experiences. But we got some punks out there. We
Ooh.
got some pimp boys. And I have to admit, I enjoy my Donald Goings books. uh, we got some playboys out there. We got some prisoners.
Hmm.
How we raising these weak tail men?
Hmm.
What are we doing wrong?
We're not raising. Nobody's available from a health standpoint. Parents are unavailable. They are sleep deprived. They are sugar laden and overstimulated to be able to properly communicate with their children who are learning from them. So as children, they're just mimicking said behavior. We need to get healthy, yo. It's deeper than just saying we're raising. We're not doing the things that we're supposed to be doing. That's the problem.
What says you, Zumbi, man? Why we have so many prisons? Why we have so many playboys, pimps, and punks in our community? And look, I know that the punks, pimps, playboys, and prisoners are in other communities as well. We get that. All right, we ain't tripping off of that. We tripping off of us. We want to make sure that we change. The we changes. Our experience is better. What says you, good brother?
I think it goes back to one word: culture. And when you've had an alien cultural value system imposed upon you, and when you have been criminalized, demonized, and vilified for expressing what has been instilled in you by nature to act out, then you get a lot of maladaptive behavior. In extreme cases, you get predatory behavior. Also, your manhood training rituals have been snatched from you and in some cases have been destroyed. So when we don't have access to the youth, we can't grab them like in ancient times where we would take young men at age 6 out of the village, and for 12 to 13 years we trained them in what is expected of them as men. So when they come back after they pass their crucible, they come back into the village because they have earned the right to participate in the economics and the politics of the village, as well as having earned the right to approach a woman to be a suitable candidate for marriage.
Fetty TV says, thank you. This needs to be discussed. I'm tired of it. I agree. I'm tired of it. I really am. I'm really kind of disturbed that we've allowed this to happen, and, as a hip hopper, I see it really vividly there. And I'm not saying that, the music or the culture is the culprit. Not saying that. I'm just saying I see it there. Our art is a reflection of what we see happening.
That's right.
And
Art imitates life.
so the punks. Now, when I say the punks, I'm talking about irresponsibility, not able to stand up and take the weight of manhood, take the shoulders, shoulder the weight of responsibility, doing for self, doing for others. I don't see that happening as much as it could happen. What did we, no, now Zumbi, I know you just gave an answer, but what did we extract? What what did we lose specifically? Where did it happen? How did it happen?
I think one of the things that has happened is it has become very easy for males to walk away from duties and responsibilities as men. Okay. And part of that we can trace back to slavery, to where when you've been separated from your family And when you have been, I don't want to say destroyed, but when you have been usurped and supplanted by someone else to where now they've taken on the role that you should have taken on as a man, now it becomes easier for you to walk away from responsibilities to where you are no longer a husband, you are no longer a father, you are no longer a producer, provider, and protector of the village. And then we see that play itself out going, down through the ages, even going into the 70s, and I'm going to date myself. We can see that in movies like Claudine that came out in 1974. Where,
you old school. You old school, bro.
So
no, it ain't even about him being old school, because that was gonna be my reference point, brother. Thank you for saying these words.
Right. So when you see the James Earl Jones character fighting to regain his position as the man versus a system who is becoming the de facto husband, the de facto father, and begin to dictate policy in the home. Now, where I come from, I consider that warfare.
All right, so you know what we're gonna hear. Y'all always putting it on slavery. Y'all always putting it on slavery.
No. See, here's the thing. That's for people who don't think, and that's for people who can't make connections. So this is not about using it as an excuse, but we need a reference point. Sometimes when you are looking to solve a problem, you have to find the genesis of it. And once you find the genesis of it and how it manifests itself, now we can say, okay, how can we develop an antidote for this? All right. So this whole stuff about, no. Okay. We need to know what is the genesis point, and then how do we unravel what has been done to us? I heard a metaphysical minister. He always has this saying. He says, there is nothing wrong with African people, but something has happened to African people.
Okay. All right. But I'm still struggling because I didn't see Claudine.
Bruh.
I'm trying. What's this movie?
I'll break it down. I'll break it down real quick.
Okay.
So,
okay.
James Earl Jones plays a man that is in love with this woman, Claudine. However, Claudine already has a couple kids, you know what I'm saying? But he's willing to come in and take care of all of that.
So we got like the old school Robin Williams and Bebe kids. Is that
right? Exactly.
Okay.
Live action Bebe's kids. However, he comes in and he tries to do nice things as a man. Her iron breaks, her to iron her clothes, that breaks. He tries to buy her a new one, little things. But then this is back when, if you're on welfare, they come and check in your house. Because like he said, now I've created a policy. I'm going to come in your stuff because now these are my children. I'm giving you money. I'm going to check on my money. So the social worker comes into the house, and anything that he has gifted her out of the love and caring and kindness is trying to be the male provider, because he can't find a job because slavery and all of that. Right.
Because of slavery.
Right. Because of slavery.
Because of slavery.
No, we're going to take it just because that's
in the 70s?
Contingency. If you bring it up, sharecropping, right? And then you bring it up, Black Wall Street was bombed, and you keep bringing it up. Like the brother said, the contingency is slavery. So because of this, he can't help this woman where he's like, I want to, I would love to. She's got to hide everything, and they get to the point of frustration. He goes into this huge outburst. I can't be the man for you because you've got the system, but I can't fight the system. So eventually the whole family ends up getting arrested because Black love triumphs all, right? That's how they end up, like, they're like, fuck this. Pretty much, like, I'm not finna not love you. I'm not finna hide my love and my desire to provide for you as a man. You're not gonna say that the system is more of a man than me, which because of that, now it's fraud and social welfare and whatever. So they try to take her to jail. He not gonna let her go to jail by himself. They all go to jail.
So who's taking care of the kids?
The kids go to jail too, like everybody in the paddy wagon.
You get a jail. You get a jail. Everybody gets a jail.
Like that was the epitome of Black family. Like that was the rage against the system. That's where Black love being revolutionary. That was them being like, yo, I know what they say, right? Because again, we've made it easy for Black men. If I buck break you and now the woman can't, how can I find strength in a man who has been sodomized and brutally beaten and torn? You know what I'm saying? How can I, who is my protector? It can't be him. So it's got to be this white man, right? This is slavery. And then you breed them like chattel and then you tear them apart. How is this any different than James Brown has a song? What is it? Papa was a Rolling Stone. You know that song. What was that about? Why did Papa have a, you know what I'm saying? Wherever he laid his hat was at home. Why is that?
Yeah, the Temptations, Papa was a Rolling Stone. Wherever he laid his hat was at home. And when he died, all he left us was alone.
So where you think that song come from? What you think they was talking about? I mean, honestly, think about the time frame. Me personally, right? In my lineage, my mother's father was an enslaved person. My mother's father, my great-grandfather, was an enslaved person. That man taught his history, his knowledge of what we know of enslavement to my grandmother, who taught that to my mother. How long is it really from slavery that we talking? I'm 36, yo. Think about how easily things are passed down. Now, choices have to be made, right, as we acquire or do not acquire knowledge. But because of these things, because of the physiology of trauma, right, I can have a mental issue become a physical effect, meaning I can suffer a trauma and get an ulcer.
Okay, so we're talking epigenetics now.
Correct.
Okay. Hey, for the uninitiated, epigenetics is the phenomena where trauma becomes embedded in one's DNA, and it gets passed on to your children and your children's children and your children's children's children. You know, we are a combination of all our ancestry, and we actually hold the struggles that they faced. And that's called epigenetics. It was first coined when they studied what happened with Jewish people who went through the Holocaust. And they realized that, hey, they went through something. And because of the stuff they went through, some of these things are passed on. And now we're starting to see that happened to us as well. We've had a couple of comments I want to tap into. Damon73 says social media has served as a platform to also promote bad behavior. We got to come back to that. I think that's a good point. TL Berry, pretty picture. I believe the absence of a strong man in the home is hard for a woman to raise a male. Yes, but slavery is the foundational starting point. So she's supporting your points. Yes, she giving you a yes. She gave you an ashe. All right. The Claudine movie has a lot of symbolism and generational curses in the Black family.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I don't know where that last comment came from. I'm not going to even say it. But you know what? We have a special guest we're going to bring on in a second. But before we do that, you know, Drez from Black Sheep talked about what the queen, you know, the comment the sister just made about, I believe the absence of a strong man in the home. It's hard for a woman to raise a man. Let's tap into that. Let's tap into that. We're going to start off with Drez from Black Sheep. You remember the song, The Choice Is Yours? Right? You know, for those who are uninitiated, engine number 9 on the New York Transit line. If my train runs off the track, pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. That's that, yeah. That's Drez from Black Sheep. What does that say? What does that say? And to tap in, coming in on the foundation, the good brother Bobby Huntley, the good author Bobby Huntley. We're gonna go a little different space. The Reverend Bobby Huntley. So Bobby, man, what says you? Why is that such a phenomenon? What Drez just talked about.
Well, Before I answer that, let me say you mentioned Donald Goines earlier. Now, I seem to be the oldest on the panel, and I just celebrated my 63rd birthday on Thursday. And I know I look about 30 something, but I'm actually 63, and that's nobody but God. Amen. I remember in high school, my senior, can you hear me?
You say you look 33,
Yeah,
37.
thank you. I said 32, but I'll take 33.
You say you
My
look 45, brother. Yeah, I agree. You look like 58, man. You know.
Well, I'll take that, man. I'll take that. Praise God. Uh, I actually did a book report, man. I went to a predominantly white high school, and my sophomore year, I think it was in social studies, and we had to do a book report. And the teacher wanted us to get a book from our home, not from the library, but whatever you had in your home. Well, only books we had in our home was Donald Goines. My sister, who was several years older than me, she read Donald Goines, Iceberg Slim and Pimps and Prostitutes. So I did a book report on that. And believe it or not, I got an A on that book report. And the teacher she was floored with it, Not only did I get an A with the book report, we had to do an oral report as well. And I got an A from that as well. And I think that's what sparked my interest in writing. Because I saw how it moved the people. But in response to the question at hand, make no mistake, the issue is the absentee of the father. More specifically, the absentee of a father, a positive Black role model in the home. That here lies the problem. Now, I was born in the 60s.
Okay.
I understand the 70s. I know that an incentive that my mother had was we were able to move into a predominantly white neighborhood, brand new low income housing. But the catch was she couldn't have a man living with her. And so that was for everybody in the neighborhood. These were nice homes, but we couldn't have a man living in the household. And my father would come by from time to time, but when we knew that someone was coming to check in, he had to leave. And you saw a lot of fathers packing up and putting things in the car and driving away and coming back later that night or the next day or what have you. So I'm a living product of that environment at that time. And so I know
I've always heard of that. I've
Oh,
always heard of that.
It's true.
That
I
was real.
lived it. I lived it. So it was an incentive not to have the man in the household. And when the man is not there, then the boys, they're growing up. And the person that made the statement earlier, I make a profound statement that it's not possible for a woman to teach a boy how to be a man. It's not in her DNA. She simply can't do it. I talk about in my book, Mothers Please, which is a self-help book for single mothers raising sons. And in that book, I list 8 mistakes that single mothers make. And I credit my mother, who was a God-fearing woman. My mother taught me respect. My mother taught me discipline, to some degree. But I became a man when I joined the Marine Corps. My father did not teach it to me because he didn't know what it was to be a man because of things he did. His father didn't teach him how to be a man. So we talk about that generational curse. Again, I'm a part of that. But I thank God that I joined the Marine Corps now, and I had some strong men in my lives in the Marine Corps that taught me how to be a man. And I've since passed that on. Now, I ended the curse in my family. The generation curse can be broken. I know without a shadow of a doubt, I ended the curse in my family. I have 4 sons from 36 to 21, and they're very prominent in the community. I've never been in trouble. And no trouble with the law whatsoever. Very respectable. And it's because of having a father around, having a father in the household. And without that father being there, without the absentee of the father or a Black positive male role model, that's where the jails are full, the prisons are full. And you talk about, these young men or boys not having backbone. You can't have a backbone if you're not taught how to strengthen your back, if no one there to teach you what it is to be a man.
Now that's interesting, and I definitely want you to rock those 8 pieces of advice in your book. And I have to admit, I've talked to a number of single parent mothers, and those who they picked up your book, because we did a expose on it a few years back. They really found some value in it. So in a second, I want you to talk about those 8 pieces of advice. Now, Fit Goddess, are you raising those young men by yourself?
So no, I have a tribe, right? Like the
go.
brother said, I'm not, nor will I ever be a man. However, If you try to date me, you will always hear me say, I will be surrounded by men because I'm raising sons.
Wonderful.
So you've got to be comfortable with the fact that if you are not willing to be that role model, then that there will be a myriad of examples. Because so let's say if I find flaw in their father, I create another example. Not saying that he's perfect, because nobody is. But if I see something in my son and something in another man, I will present that man for my son to see if they can connect, because I can't, whatever it is. And I've witnessed it. I danced for Atufan Edutainment, right? For the African Landing Day, there was a gentleman that came by and wanted to help my oldest carry his turtles. He was so enamored. I love that your son has turtles. I said, okay, well, that's fine. Go talk to him, right?
Mm-hmm.
I said, son, tell him what you do. He goes on his speech, his pitch of his business and who he is, and it's a wonderful thing. He does it way better than I do. And the man says, son, you are so valuable. Mind you, I've said this 10 years in a row, but we're at that age, right?
Right.
You don't hear me. I understand this. That's fine.
Absolutely.
You don't need to hear me. It's okay. Please go hear the people that are going to speak to you, so that when you come to me and say, Mom, he told me that I'm valuable. That's right, baby. That's absolutely right. You are so valuable.
Right.
That is now my role. Now, don't get it twisted. I can understand, as a single mother, being raised by a single mother, how this is very, very difficult. It is very, very difficult. And brothers, y'all need to help these single sisters, because it is very, very difficult. You have created a seed with a person who now looks like that person who you are no longer with for whatever reason. And if you have not healed from that trauma of the decision or whatever, what that ends up looking like is every time you get frustrated, all of that resentment comes out onto that little person. And then we just talked about trauma. So now what's happening? This little young man is looking at this Black woman. Why do you think so many Black men despise Black women? Because evil Black mothers. And I don't mean it in that way, but they're being vicious, not to the child, but to what the child represents, whether it is the image of the man or the consequences of their decision. Again, I've been told I was a mistake. I've been chastised for having charisma like my father. I am the child that my mother was like, oh my goodness, I can't stop acting like your daddy. Ma'am, what is that? Who? It has nothing to do with me. Why are you treating me this way? As an adult, I can see this and I can understand. And again, it is very hard, because there are those times where my sons look exactly like, and I'm taken back to that point of most rage, because who cares? However, in that moment, I have to breathe and remember this child and that man are not the same individual. Right? That child I brought into this world on purpose. However, I'm the mother that takes notes. I'm the mother that I can show you where I did numerology for their names. I can show you where I have books upon books and then emails of writing them like, hey, I can't wait to see you. I can't wait to, like, oh my God, I feel you. Now you're out. And I'm like, oh my God, remember when I was writing to you when you were in me? Now you're out and you're doing the thing that I felt. I knew as a child whose father wasn't available. I tell my oldest son all the time, I know you're mad sometimes because of you want this idea. But son, unfortunately, it didn't work out that way. So you still have the thing that you want. Yay. My dad wasn't there. Why would I be the woman to be so spiteful, so revengeful, so intimidated, abused, battered, to be like, oh my God, your dad is not good enough. No, your dad is doing whatever it is that you need from him because he's your dad. Cool. Go over there. Do I miss my sons? Yes. They called me right before the show and I thought I was late, but y'all was late while I was crying in the closet because I miss my babies.
Wow.
You know, there's absolutely nothing wrong with them being where they are, being loved on by their dad, regardless of whatever sometimes my crazy mind makes up, right? If I relax and be like, yo, guess what I don't have to do? Feed 2 kids. You know what I don't have to do?
All right. She called us late. She gave that nice diatribe and then called us late. I see. I see. Yo,
Listen,
Bobby,
I was
man.
rushing, yo.
Yes.
I was rushing.
Yeah, yo, Bobby.
Yes.
Hold up the cover of your book, bro. All right, so the book is called Mothers Please.
Yes.
And on the cover of your book, you have a prisoner.
Yes.
All right, let's talk about that, man. Let's talk about that. What are our mothers doing that are creating prisoners? You know, we said earlier that, you know, we're creating or raising or not raising punks, pimps, playboys, and prisoners. We're raising weak men. So
Yes.
what's happening, man? Why are we raising these weak men?
Let me start by telling you how the book came about. I recently retired from the Virginia Beach City Public Schools after 19 years. I retired October 2021, October 2021. 14 years of those 19 years, I was a director of a mentoring program, character development mentoring program called the Gentlemen's Club for Boys. And I implemented the program, and it's been in about 5 or 6 of the schools in Virginia Beach public school system. At one time, I was a dean of student at the alternative high school. And I was dealing with discipline with the students. And I remember when I was have the parents come, and 9 out of 10 times would be the mother to come to speak with me concerning disciplinary actions from their child, their son. In a lot of cases, I would tell the mother specifically what the infraction is, what it is that the child did. And the mother always questioned me as if I did something wrong, but she would not question her son. I remember I had a parent in my office, and I showed her on the computer a live feed into the classroom. And I wanted her to see the monitor and show her that this is being live right now in that particular classroom. This is the class that your son was in. Your son was sitting at this desk. So I'm watching it live. It's not recording. This is what's live, what's happening. I said, you see the kids, their interaction? She said, yes. I said, your son was sitting there, and let me tell you what he did. I saw it with my own eyes. And I explained to her exactly what her child did, how disruptive he was. She turned to him and she said, did you do that? He said, no, ma'am, it wasn't me. She said, he said it wasn't him. I said, ma'am, I'm showing you, you're looking at a live feed. Are you seeing what you see with your own eyes? Do you see what that child just did? You witnessed what that child just did. That's what I did with your son. And I began saying, mothers, please stop it. Mothers, please. So when I wrote the book, that's the first thing that came to my mind. Mothers, please stop. I'll also say that it was a mother whose son that went through my program asked me to write this book. So this book is not to put single mothers down. It's not. It's dedicated to single mothers because single mothers do the best that they possibly can. So it's not a book to put them down. It's a book to encourage them, to give them some tools because of my experiences, 19 years in the Virginia Beach Public Schools, my 40-something years as being a father, a grandfather, being an author, an educator, a minister, a pastor. I have experience, so I'm speaking from knowledge and wisdom. So I'm not going to give you all 8 of the mistakes because I want you to buy the book. But Queen, you try to set me up, Seiko, but I know better. But Miss Queen here, she gave one of the mistakes already. She's my witness. You gave a mistake already that single mothers make, but you didn't make that mistake. You didn't put the father down. You spoke positivity about the father, regardless of how your interaction was with him. You did not tell your child, he's no good, he's not doing this, he's not doing, and that's the mistake that single mothers do. They bash their child's father in front of the child. That serves nothing positive for that child. Now, one of the big mistakes that they make is I say, mother, stop telling your boys, because that's who they are, boys, stop saying they're the man of the house. Don't call them the man. Don't call them the man of the house because they're not a man. They are a boy, and the boy needs to stay in a boy's place. And you're putting too much pressure. Do you know how hard it is to be a black man? Now, I think the other 2 brothers can give me an amen on this. It's hard to be a man. It's harder to be a black man. We leave out these doors every day facing all kind of issues. And you're going to put that on that 10-year-old, that 9-year-old, that 8-year-old.
Listen, and they got them issues now.
Exactly. So you're putting this issue, but telling them they're the man of the house now. That's a heavy burden to carry. Stop telling, because here's the problem. Because I had it happen to me. When these boys run into a real man and they begin to question that real man and they don't want to take what that real man is telling them. I had students would tell me, well, I'm a man just like you a man. I said, boy, who told you you were a man? My mother told me I'm a man. Well, I'm telling you, your mother is wrong. Show me your driver's license. Show me a pay stub. Show me where you have responsibility, you're taking care of yourself, that you're buying your own groceries. Show me these receipts, as they say. Show me the receipts. I was being cool, didn't even know I was being cool back then. Show me the receipts. And they couldn't provide the receipts. So you're not a man, and that's okay. I was not a man at your age. So mothers, don't tell these boys that they're men, because when they come into contact with a real man, there's an issue, because that man needs to put that boy in his place, and that's to respect a man. Correct. So that's one of the mistakes. And Queen, like I said, mother, you gave another mistake with the mothers bashing the men, and I'll give you a third one. Don't deny that child that father.
That is the biggest one, yo.
Don't keep that son from his father, because you cannot teach him how to be a man. It takes a man how to be a man. And I got news for you. Even if that man is doing wrong, that child will learn what not to do.
Because it is not your place.
I don't give my father credit for raising me or teaching me anything. What he taught me was how I did not want to be.
So the beauty is, right? The beauty of the father, right? My dad wasn't there, but the role of the father is important to both the male child and the female child for the same reason. I could have learned so much more about the other half of myself, whether it be the positive or the negative, had I been exposed to my father. But because of the way my mom manipulated the relationship, he only came around, and this is me. This is because of COVID, right? I had time to sit and digest and look back on my life and say, what happened? And I had a chance to call my father. And again, my father he is an honest man. He may not have been available, but he is an honest man.
Wonderful.
I never liked everything that he said, but when I really needed him, he was there. And I can tell how my mom made it so he ain't even want to be there. If he wanted to be there, he didn't feel like he had the space or the time or the ability to be a presence in the way that he knew how. Did it make it right? No, but we all supposed to be learning. Women need a lot more mentors, not just male mentors, but female mentors.
Yes.
Thank God for the female mentors that I've had. There was a woman, I trained her as a personal trainer. I trained her. She's in her 60s and she had a child at 15. She told me one thing as a single mother: by 10, you should let those boys be with their father. So her voice rings in my head all the time. I'm like, it's fine. It's fine. Rites of passage. I don't know what they teach them because I'm not a man, and I got to just, find something to do with myself, because this is the age range. I legit have a 10-year-old and a 6-year-old. If we look at history, that's tribal age.
Can I share this? Please. Can I share this, please? I love the movie Boys in the Hood.
Okay.
And this was the great part about the Boys in the Hood, how Angela Bassett met up with the father, Lawrence Fishburne, and she told him, Trey needs you. I can't teach him how to be a man. And so he said, I'll take my son. And he took his son. And I remember him cutting his son's hair and dropping knowledge and wisdom to his son. And the only part I didn't like about the movie is because Lawrence Fishburne, of course, the character he played, he didn't take care of the other kids in the neighborhood, because those kids was a part of his sons. Those were his playmates.
And they needed that same presence.
They needed that same presence. He took his son fishing. He cut his son's hair, but he didn't spend time with the other boys who was going to help shape his son as well.
Right.
And so I really wish he would have just reached out to them, Doughboy and everybody else, and would have made their lives a lot better.
Right. And again, the masculine presence in the world it has to be elevated. Like, again, there are punks, there are all these other men, but I don't understand why we talking so much about them. Like, let's talk about the kings. If I tell you about the weak men that I've encountered, cool, the number is few, right? But the great men that I've encountered, they may not have been with me romantically, but the fact that I can see them, it's better than the Cosby Show. You know, I can touch them, I can talk to them. They're realistic. It's not a scripted show. They'll tell me in the brazen way that men tell women things, because you're direct. It's blunt. It's not a big deal. Your baritone is very bassy, right? As a woman without a father, initially, that's what a lot of women have an issue with. It's the reverberation. I haven't heard that tone because women have a different octave, right? So now you're not yelling at me. You're talking to me like a man with your bass, and I want to. That's the trauma. It's the PTSD. There's a man that has yelled at you just like my sons. I can hear it. I can see it because I see the vicious, vile look when my mom's reflecting on her life, but looking at me and speaking those words. You know, you have to catch yourself and be like, this ain't even about me or you. Apparently, I need to go sit down somewhere. Go enjoy your life, child.
And I love when I have opportunity when I'm out to speak, you know, and I'm in front of an audience, and depend on the platform, of course. But I have a way of determining by looking at a young man to determine whether or not he was raised by his mother or his father. And I've done this before, not a lot of times, because it has to. I see Seiko being interested in this.
Yeah, you caught my interest. So
right.
You can look at a young buck and say, yeah, well, he's a mama's boy or he's a daddy's boy.
Well, you know, not in a negative way, but just to understand or to know that the father wasn't in his household. I would ask the young man, I would determine whether or not the type of clothes that he's wearing, if he has on a sweater or pullover sweater like what I'm wearing or what, you know, the two of you are wearing. I would ask him, do you have a shirt on underneath that? He said, yes, I do. You mind taking the sweater off for me, pulling it off? And if I were to ask either one of us to take our shirt off, mainly we would just grab it from the bottom and just yank it off in one smooth move. It's just off.
Okay. I see where you're going.
But a boy who watches his mother gets undressed one sleeve at a time, and he's doing this unaware of. Women are doing it for two reasons. One, they don't look at Queen laughing. They don't want to mess up their hair. And two, because of their dress.
I'm so weak.
It's not to put the boy down, but it's what he's used to, seeing his mother get dressed and undressed in the bedroom. But he sees his mother around his father. It's coming off. Dad's not doing this. It's just coming off. So he'll do that.
Now, I have to admit, you scared me when you were saying that you were telling the young boy to take your shirt off. But
no, I have to set the stage. You know, I have to let people make them aware of what's about to happen.
All right.
Okay. Now, see, I'm glad because I mimicked it right before he said it. I was like, "Oh, you mean this?" Because I ain't doing all of that.
Right. I'll share this funny story, and I credit Michael Baisden for this, because I remember when I listened to him years ago, he told this story. He had went out to dinner on his third or fourth date with this young lady, and finally she wanted to introduce the son to him. So they took him to dinner, the three of them out eating dinner, and the little boy has to use the restroom. He's about 7 or 8 years old. He has to use the restroom. So Michael Bay said, well, I'll go with you. So the mother asked him, believe it or not, you know, what do you got to do? He said, I just got to do number one. She said, okay. So Michael Bay said, I'll go with you. So they go to the restroom, and Michael Bay, and of course, he's using the urinal, you know, standing up, taking care of his business. But the little boy goes into the stall behind closed doors. So Michael Bay is kind of puzzled. And he says, you okay? He said, yeah. He said, I thought you had to do the number one. He said, I do. I did do the number one. He said, why'd you go in there? So the little boys used to go in and sitting down because that's what he see his mother do. He hasn't been taught how to stand up and use the restroom.
He hadn't been taught how to stand up.
Hadn't been taught how to stand up. No man was around. His mother would take him to the restroom, and he would see his mother sitting down. And so that's what he saw. And that's what he did. When he go to the restroom, he would sit down.
There's a metaphysical message right there.
That's neglectful right there, though, honestly. Like, even if, for whatever reason, let's say the father died, right? There's a way to teach a son how to urinate standing up without a man's presence. However, it's much easier. Do not negate the fact that it's much easier, because I have 2 little boys, and there's been plenty of times they ask me things about their phalanges, and I'm like, are you sure you want to?
Here we go.
Okay, give me.
Right.
Give me just 2 seconds to get myself together before we do this.
Right.
You know what? But as I consider my time as a elementary school teacher, I did see that. I actually had mothers who said, "Can you teach my son how to urinate?
Absolutely.
How to pee?"
Right.
And I was like, "Okay,
Mm-hmm.
all right, cool." It was what it was. But that's interesting, bro.
Yeah.
Zumbi, man. You're the metaphysical minister here, bro. Somebody had to teach that young man how to stand. Is there a metaphysical message? Because that's what I heard. I was like, the boy sat down. He didn't stand. He hadn't been taught how to stand. Am I missing something too? Am I reading too much into it? What do you say, bro?
Well, there's we always say that there's a masculine and a feminine principle. Okay. And a lot of times when let me put it this way. Okay. In the fourth surah of the Quran, Allah tells Adam and Eve that I created you both from the same essence. I always believe that man plus woman equals God. So half of God is put in the masculine principle, half of God in the feminine principle, because you need both of those principles in order to develop the human being that you produce. When one of those principles is missing, you have what I call arrested development. Okay. So, and I think all of us can bear witness to, if one of those principles is missing, we've suffered in some cases from arrested development. Now I know the elder was talking about once he arrived in the Marine Corps, that's where his manhood training began. I remember growing up, part of my manhood training began with seeing deacons in the church who were not just deacons. They were also involved in positions of leadership, whether they were union leaders on their jobs, whether they were Masonic leaders, whether they were leaders politically. So I always got to see men in positions of leadership, even though I saw them within a church setting. I saw them in leadership positions in other parts of the community.
Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting.
So can I throw y'all for one, right? I was taught to be a man around 8. Meaning
it didn't work.
No. Right. But so not me as in I was a man, but the values, right? Again, so I have a different retrospect, right? I watched my mother enable my brother to be less of a man while teaching me to be hyper independent, which is thereby more of a man. I know how to, you know what I'm saying? I ain't never been home.
Yeah,
to live with my mom. Like there's the mama's boy versus the man.
There's that saying that mothers love their sons and raise their daughters.
That's right.
And so you're saying you live that.
Correct.
And I'm gonna throw a true story in here. I was at a Barnes and Noble Saturday night, and I happened to run into a Muslim sister. She was a Dominican sister from Brooklyn, and I was in the religion section, and she came up, and we struck up a conversation. Now, mind you, this is during the time where people were waiting for the verdict of the George Zimmerman, Trayvon Martin situation. Okay. And she wanted to get a Quran, but she didn't have the money. So fortunately, I had a coupon and my membership card. And she said something to me that still sticks with me to this day. Now, it was nighttime. It was probably maybe about 8:30 at night or so. And she told me that she feared so much for her son's life. Notice how in most cases you would take the male with you out at night and leave the female at home. She was so fearful for her son's life in the wake of the Trayvon Martin situation, she started leaving her son at home and taking her daughter with her out at night. Okay. And I'm sitting up here like, is this what we've come to? Now, I don't know if the sister was married or single or whatever the case may be. But that just struck me that she feared for her son's life so much that she took her daughter with her as part of protection.
It's again, it takes it back to slavery. So there's this book that I read to help me with it. It's called Parenting for Liberation, where it discusses a lot of the things that we do innately that we don't even know because somebody taught us to do it and we're mimicking that fact. For example, if we send our kids outside, you may have some kind of system where every 5-10 minutes they got to come back and check in, so you know that they're alive, right? However, how many other kids are doing this? Most other kids are just playing and enjoying themselves. They're the one child. So what does that ingrain in them? They're not safe. Somebody's after them, right? So now, even though you're not discussing this with your child, you're creating a mental state of fear always for your child, like slavery, right? I remember when my sons asked me, hey, can we go outside and play? I was like, yeah, hold on, give me 2 seconds. Go in the room. Down, because this thought process, if I send my kids outside, will they come back in? Will they look like somebody who is playing with a nothing? And how will I live after that? How can I allow my sons outside? It's a very real mental thing because of what we've seen. It's the same as they see the smart boy or the strong man or the strong boy and they take him from the mother. So instead of being like, oh, my son is great. No, my son is stupid. My son is a derelict. My son is terrible. However, the son is here and hears this from his mother. Again, it's a vicious cycle.
Are you intimating that the mothers have dumbed down their sons to protect them and keep them close?
They have damaged their sons innately by, let's say in conversation, here comes anybody, white school teacher. Oh my God, your son is so intelligent. Well, he at home, he talked back and da-da-da-da-da. Now, but again, your son is right here. Now, anybody else's son, oh, hey, Johnny does great in school. Yeah, you know what else he's great at? He does this and this and this and this and this. Not our boys. He's terrible. He does this. He's rambunctious. I can't believe I can't get him to sit still. Your son is sitting right there listening to you talk shit about him. In defense, because you don't really want somebody to see the value in your son, and it's not your fault. Again, now you've got the psychosis that you were given, plus the trauma that you suffered from the person that you were with that you no longer are with. And all this is being fed into this poor, sweet baby's mental record.
Yeah, wow. So it's interesting. So our parenting has been informed by our trauma.
Correct.
And because of that, we're parenting our children in a traumatic way that stifles and arrests their development. And, like for instance, when I was a counselor, I used to do in-home counseling, right? And so I would say, well, what are your son's chores? I don't give him any chores. He doesn't do them right. I want him right. I want a clean house. I said, well, do you want a responsible son? Yeah, my son is irresponsible. I can't trust him to do anything. And I'm like, well, if he doesn't practice responsibility, how do you expect him to be responsible? But nah. Okay, so you rather have a prisoner and a clean house.
Because again, here comes the cycle, right? Women are taught to do so much, right? Taking care of everybody. This is the big mama syndrome, as I call it. And now you can't do it because I can do it right. Even in parenting, even in mothering, as mother against father, only I can do it right. These kids got to be with me. No. That's not how it works. So now you're not training. I had a 60-year-old client who had an 8-year-old daughter. She did not allow her to clean the house at all, simply because she wanted it cleaned the way she wanted it cleaned. I said, ma'am, please get a glass of wine and tell that little girl to do it over and over and over and over again.
That's incredible, because it's that I want it done my way. My way's right. I got to do it because nobody else is going to rise to the occasion. And then once again, they love their sons, they raise their daughters. But I don't want to say this is all the fault of the mothers.
I mean, I can attach the thing and make it about everybody. But I mean, who cares? The thing is, what are we doing to solve the problem? The problem is a lack of control. Everybody's trying to control somebody else when really you need to control yourself.
Let me share this, please. This was not the first cover I was going to. This is my second cover, meaning that the first cover that I really wanted for the book was actually going to be an illustration of a young man, 17, 18 years old, lying on his bed, and then the mother in the bedroom with a laundry basket picking up his clothes. That's what I wanted on the front of the cover, but I didn't think it was going to be a heart of a fact. So that's why I chose the prison cover. But in actuality, I wanted to have that illustration. Right,
I like your first cover.
Yo, that would have been
teenage,
dope.
That would have been
teenage
it.
boy lying in that bed, which is one of the other mistakes that single mothers make. It's not assigning those chores and not making them stick to it because they want to,
they want it done right.
Child. Well, they also want to coddle that child just a little bit longer because that's their baby, and I'm going to take care of my baby.
And I realized, I got a great sense of identity as a father, and my job was to prepare them to leave and be independent, right? But I also understand that women get a great sense of identity from being a mother. And so I wanted to hold on to that fatherhood identity as long as possible and that activity as long as possible. So I'm sure that in a trauma situation, in a trauma-informed parenting model, as a traumatic person who survived trauma, they may want to hold on to something that really defines the goodness of their identity for as long as possible. Hey, brother Antoine Richardson, one of our great viewers. Hey, good to see you, Antoine. Wants to know the name of the book, Bobby. What's the name of the book?
Mothers, Please.
Show the cover again. Show the cover again.
You can purchase the book on my website at brayhuntleenterprises.com or simply log on to amazon.com and just type in my name, Bobby Huntley, Huntley, Bobby Huntley, and you'll see the 4 other books. But I want to go back and say this real quickly. Also, you mentioned about the mother, perhaps, I guess, like dumbing down the child in front of people. The last movie that Will Smith just put out, you know the name of that movie? It was Emancipation. Well, in that movie, I think there's a part in that movie where the mother, after Will Smith leaves, the mother is cleaning and what have you, and she's having a conversation with her son, and her son is saying something. But when the slave owner comes into the home or to the house, she has to start talking as if her son is dumb or doesn't know any better. But she was having an intelligent conversation with him. But when she saw the white man, the slave owner, she knew that she couldn't carry that conversation on with her son because she didn't want to show them how intellectual he was.
Because they was going to come get him. They were going to come get him and get him.
Absolutely.
That's the one, the smart one. Yeah, that's the one we kill.
That's the one we got to get rid of.
You have to. So imagine how many mothers began doing this, and then how many children saw this behavior, whether it was the son that was being talked about or the daughter that saw it. So now the daughter believes that this is how you talk to brothers, period. Sons, fathers, uncles, cousins, brothers in general, right? Brothers feel like this is how a woman's supposed to talk to me.
Right.
The hell? And then look at how we talk to each other if we believe that that's how we're supposed to be talked to.
Yes, absolutely.
Yo, that's intriguing. That's intriguing. So, from the school's perspective, why do we have so many punks in the school? If are the mothers telling them not to be successful in school? When I say punk, I mean somebody who cannot shoulder the weight of responsibility, who can't take. I was in class the other day, right? And we use Chromebooks in our classroom, right? These are, laptops. Mm-hmm. And the kid was just sitting there, and I was like, yo, son, get to work. Duh, my Chromebook is out of power. Mm-hmm. Plug it in. I don't know where to plug it in. Look around the room, find an outlet, and plug it in.
Right.
2 minutes later, he gets up, right? And I don't see, so I point, and so he goes over there, and he realizes that there's a table, and he has to get on his knees to plug the cord in. I can't reach under there. You can't reach. I said, yo, so I'm gonna get in trouble. And I said, man, stop being a little P. Get on your knees, plug it in. And it was funny because the room went silent, right? 2 minutes later, he finally gets on his knees and plugs it in. And I was like, all right. Now, after he plugged it in, I was like, come on, son, let's step outside. So now we have a conversation. And I just waited for him to keep doing that. And then I was like, all right, whenever you finish, we'll talk. All this silly stuff you're doing is going to stop before I have a conversation with you. So if you want to just keep shuffling and looking left and right, do that as long as you want. I got all day, son. So a minute later, he stops. I'm like, what's the problem, man? I didn't want to get on my knees. You could have asked somebody to get on your knees for you. You could have just got on your knees, could have put a piece of paper on the ground and got on top. What's your problem? I don't know. This is what we're dealing with in the schools. And when I say we have punks in the schools, they cannot shoulder the responsibility of just taking action for themselves.
They've not been taught.
I'm about to say that's it. It's accountability.
They've not been taught. And I can guarantee you he appreciated that dialogue that you had with him.
Well, I tell you what.
There's not been a man. Exactly. There's not been a man that took the time and spoke to him face to face and called him out for his actions.
What I tell you what, the interesting thing is later on that day, I see him in the hallway. Hey, Mr. V, what's good? What's good? And
every child craves structure and discipline.
Absolutely.
It comes different from each principle, right? From the feminine principle, it's more nurturing. It's more, oh, are you all right? Have you do, like my son says, I'm his healer. So he's going to learn how to cook well and drink good foods and be healthy and remember the sing-songy rhymes, because that's what women do. The discipline, which is what's lacking. It's not a male principle, but it is, right? Instead of a man coming and just, it's the, yo, that's not cool.
Right.
Okay, sheesh. It's the baritone that we talk about, where dad can say something that mom can't. Mom will nag and nag and nag and nag. Dad will say it one time. Mom will be like, bruh. Or you can be like, cool, thank you.
Oh, you know what? That was one of the things that I used to teach my mother clients. And I admit I did teach a few father clients as well, but majority of my clients were, mothers. And I was like, stop talking so much. Yo, Queens. Science. Here's some science. We don't listen to y'all. You already know it. The more you talk, the less we listen. But I tell you what we respond to is action. So I would coach my mothers, give the boundary, and whenever the child crosses the boundary, don't say a word, just act on it. Just pick the phone up, and put it in your purse and don't touch it. But don't talk to them, because they already know why they lost the phone.
Yeah, that's
they
the
already
hardest
know
part.
Why they lost the Nintendo. They just trying to talk you out of it because they've seen They've seen men talk you out of your pants. All right, so I said some stuff, and but
come on, Ma, it's all right, Ma. I love you, Ma. You so sweet, Ma. You so pretty, nah, bro. Go over there.
On to the next one. But my point though is we need to make sure that whoever is raising our men gives the boundaries and stops talking. Let them learn the lesson. We don't want them to be hurt. We don't want them to feel the pain. I have family members, and I had a family member, and This dude is walking away from responsibility. This dude is making promises and breaks them all the time. This dude does the minimum. Why? Because the parenting tried to prevent him from feeling pain. And pain, discomfort, is a great teacher.
Absolutely.
And it's a great back builder. And we don't want our children to feel the pain, so we prevent them. And in doing so, we make a whole bunch of punks.
Yes.
And punks make great prisoners.
That's
And I'm not
right.
saying that, that they're not scared to fight. I had a kid tell me the other day, my cousin will beat you up. Okay, yeah, no problem. I've been beat up before.
Mm-hmm.
All right, but you just threatened me.
Mm-hmm.
I'll deal with that. Then I walked on and did what I did, wrote him up, stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that. But my point is, I made my point. I made my point. Yo, so we talked about the parenting part of this issue. We talked about the problems. Let's talk about the solutions.
Good.
So Bobby, look, I know you ain't giving the book away. Make that money, bro. Make that money.
Well, no, it's
money.
That's the truth. But I think, did I mess up something? One of the things that I have no. When I've been out with you, Seiko, and some of the events you've sponsored and had, I've gave several books away, so I have no problem with that. But I think that anytime people spend their money, they have to invest in something, and they're investing in knowledge and something for their child. So I definitely want them to purchase the book. But one of the things
I do too, man. Because look,
right,
that I think we expect the hookup,
right,
and hookup culture. And hookup mentality has been one of the greatest demeaning and deteriorating impacts on our community. And now it's kind of interesting that kids don't even have relationships; they just hook up. And once again, now we have demeaned, we have deteriorating, we have the inability to get along with each other. So this expecting the hookup. I got the hookup, like Master P said. So I love a good hookup, but I like something I paid for and getting good value. And you know what's funny? Like, I do this, man. When I sit down in the barber chair, I tip the barber before I get my hair cut. My father taught me that. He's like, once they know that you value them, they give you their best. I go to a restaurant. When I have cash, bam, I hit them first off. Why? Because once they know you value them, they give you their best. And so that goes into the parenting. But I'm sorry, I'm talking too much.
That's good. I've never done it, but I love giving tips, and I give great tips. But that's good to give it in advance. That's wonderful. But to answer your question, there's another book that I've had the opportunity to write, and that's when I had my mentoring program, the Gentleman's Club, which is another self-help book on how to start a mentoring program for youth. And I've established this along with a dear friend of mine, Paul Arrington. And like I said, it's in some of the schools in Virginia Beach. And, I've had the opportunity to go out and speak to other schools and tell them about this mentoring program, how to get it started, and then tell them what the program is all about. But in that program, we teach integrity, respect, pride, and that into the lives of young men. And so it's imperative that we're talking about school, that they should have such programs in their school. Thank you. Scroll down to the Italy and to the Gentleman's Club that I'm referring to also. Thank you, Seiko. You're quick with that.
You got to pay for that, bro.
You are quick with that. Amen. But it's powerful to have these mentoring programs for our young men in school because a lot of times, as we said, the parents are not in the home. And in my mentoring program, my very first field trip every year has always been to the Virginia Beach jail, to the courthouse and jail. And you ask, well, why would you take kids to the jail? It's never been a scared straight program, but one of the mottos that I have is that if we're not on the right path, then the wrong path lies ahead. And I want them to see what the wrong path looks like. It's the same thing what you just said. You want to tip in advance right, to get that good service. So I want to show them what the outcome is when you're not on the right path. And we always have an inmate who comes in shackles and handcuffs into one of the conference rooms, and they speak with our young men, and they always say, my problem started in middle school. In middle school is when I began to stop listening to my parents, is when I began to do my own thing, hang out with the wrong crowd, and so many other things. And so all these things occur in middle school. And so we teach them that if you're not on the right path, then the wrong path lies ahead. So it's very imperative that you, if your school does not have mentoring programs, request it. I just learned that Virginia Beach, they still got to spend about 30, 40, $60 million before October. So they can invest in some programs. And maybe I think Norfolk still have money and their school system that they have to spend. They got this money in advance during COVID. So they can invest in some mentoring programs to help these kids and to help the community. Because when you help the students, you help the community and you help their families as well.
I say that. I heard that pitch for them to buy your book, bro. They got the money. No. I just want to salute the fact that you put out product, man. Yeah. We just showed 3 of the books. The Italy book, the prison, the school pipeline book, and the Mother's Please book. Hey, Fit Goddess, you have some other fans. I'm a fan of yours. We got some other fans that are like, salute Fit Goddess. So Fit Goddess, drop your book. Hold your book up too.
Oh yeah. There we go.
Yeah, it's the book's so good that my good brother from Brooklyn wrote a song about it. Breathe.
Oh man, it's so many good Breathe songs, yo. It's so many good Breathe songs. But since we talking about young kings, I showed you just before we got on the call. I told you I'm braggadocious about my 2 and my babies.
Wonderful.
All right, so you know what? You showed the page that says drink your water. I'll go ahead and do that.
Please do. Please do. Stay hydrated.
I say that. Hey, so Bobby and Zumbi, I know we're both you two are both very solution focused. So buy the book, that's one given. But you already gave away 2 jewels in the conversation earlier today. Let's leave, we've gone over an hour, so let's leave the internet with something smooth. Let's give them some more strategies that can be employed to fix the fact that we got too many punks, players, pimps, and prisoners. Bobby, why don't you start it off?
Thank you. I would say the key, well, I'll go back to this. Make no mistake, it still takes a village. It still takes a village. And what I mean by that is that whether it be a mother, one parent, or a father, 2 parents, they still can't do it alone. It takes a village. It still takes a community. And that's what we've gotten away from. Because I know when I grew up in the 60s and the 70s, it was a whole village that was there. It was a whole village that was there to help raise me. And this is what we still need. And this is why our children are suffering. And they're suffering because the parents, and in most cases, the mothers, won't let you say anything to their child. That's my baby. That's my son. You can't talk to him that way. Well, if we can't talk to him, we being Black men, positive, strong Black men, if we can't talk to them, then you're leaving it up to the police officers or to the correctional officers to talk to them. And I guarantee you then they'll listen. So when you have someone that's positive male role model that wants to help you, to reach out and help you with your child, with raising that young boy to become a man, yield to that. Welcome that. Welcome that. So we're all here to be helpers of one another. And that's what we're put on this earth to do, because we can't do it alone. So I encourage you to seek help, ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't think you can do it by yourself, because you can't. If it's not working so far with how you're doing things, then try something new. I'll leave it at that. Have a blessed evening. God bless.
All right. Thank you, Queen. She always keeping me on point. Bobby, thank you for tapping in on the Get On Code show tonight. Fit Goddess, why don't you share some stuff? Give us some last tips from a conscious mother on how to do a better job raising our sons.
I like it. So from the mother standpoint, because the Papa Bears don't take over till like 6 to 10. That's what we said. So we got a good 6 to 10 years, right? I would say fables, right? Because fables teach morals and values. Affirmations, because affirmations teach self-worth. If their why is themselves, the children's why they want to exist is because they are whatever. Like I told you, my sons called me before I got on this call. My youngest said, I am a good brother. I am a good king. I am intelligent. They need to know and hear these things so that their voice is more present than ours in their life. And physical activity. So I'm not a fan of corporal punishment. My mama hit me one time, and I remember having conversations with her. How can we not do this, ma'am? But I do, yes, exactly like Aesop's fables. And seriously, my mom will tell you, I had a conversation with her. What do I need to do so you don't feel like you can do that to me ever again? And we broke it down, and that was the first and the last time she ever put her hands on me.
Was that the first and the last time that she needed to put her hands on you?
I don't know if she actually needed to put her hands on me because I'm very communicative, even as a young child. She did really good about making sure I had words, so there was really no reason for her to be that upset with a child. What is the reason that we're abusing children? You can discipline a child. Like I do mine. They do a lot of physical activity. You're going to grow, you're going to hurt, and you're going to grow, right? They do push-ups, they do sit-ups, they do squats, they hold books, they do jumping jacks. They run to the point now where they tease me because my legs are so strong because you make us do wall sits. Okay, bro. Sorry. Or I ask them, I can put my hands on you, and they say, no, thank you. Cool. We can keep doing this.
Got you. All right. Brother Minister Zumbi Shawala, author of the book GOAT, Gospel of Afro-Nomics Theology. Is there anything in the book, man, that would be helpful in raising young men, older men, old men, men?
I think one of the things, and it'll really come out more in the Chicago Code than in GOAT, but one of the things that I think GOAT will set up is we have to train our young men to be entrepreneurial minded. Being an African man in America should automatically make you entrepreneurial minded in the first place. Okay. And in fact, in one of the core beliefs, I write that we believe the universe built man to be self-employed and entrepreneurial. Okay. So some of the other things that I think that we can do with our young males, I'm still an advocate of Fruit of Islam training, the drill. I think they're probably still one of the few organizations that actually has a structured manhood training program. I believe in training young males in combat sports / martial arts, teaching them games such as board games, whether it be chess, whether it be Risk, whether it be Monopoly, anti-Monopoly, because in the immortal words of Sister Soja, we are at war. Okay. And a war has been declared on African males. And to use scripture, whether it's Pharaoh hunting down Moses or Herod hunting down Yeshua / Jesus. Okay. And we need to be very clear about that when we deal with our young men, because if you want warriors to be the vanguards of the village, then you've got to start them young so they can be the vanguards, so they can be the protectors of the village and not the predators of the village.
Amen.
I say that. Amen that. Antoine saying, bruh, I'm totally digging your whole pedigree. All right. All right. So, we got some fans. We have some supporters. We have some code keepers. So, as we say, as we want you to do, we want you to be a code keeper. And let me tell you what that is. Somebody who gets on code, they become the code, they teach the code, and they realize that our code is empowerment. Our whole focus on the Get On Code show is empowerment. So we ask you to get on code. We ask you to contact your family, contact your parents. They miss you. Have some interaction with them. They miss you, right? Eat your vegetables, drink your water. And last but not least, we love y'all.
Praise God. God bless.